Welcome, everyone, to the Starfield Sandwich Podcast, a Starfield podcast by fans for fans. I'm one of your hosts, Eric, aka Sulior, and this is a very special episode. We are celebrating 6 months of this podcast, and we thought, what better way to do that than to have both of us here together? So, yes, I am here with my illustrious co-host, Kelsey. How you doing?
Hello. So actually, I think the podcast is probably like 7 or 8 months, and then it's 6 months, just over 6 months since Starfield launched.
Oh, it's Starfield release.
But yeah,
okay.
but we
That's
started
right,
the
yeah,
show like a little bit before. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'm getting my dates mixed up. I've slept since then. So.
But yes, as always,
yeah.
it's like great to be here. It's been a little while since we've had a face-to-face chat about things on, whether that's been on Fallout or here for Starfield. So
I think the last episode that we were together, my dog decided to burp into the microphone.
Yeah. So I listened to the previous when we did the 1 month of Starfield. I did listen to that back before this because I was like, I want to see like how my opinions have maybe changed in 6 months, and surprisingly not very much. I mean, really, I think I'm pretty much still in line with that, but there's going to be plenty to talk about today. Yeah, very excited to, because I've definitely kind of got the Starfield bug again. So yeah, I'm very excited to chat with you and talk about 6 months of the mostly negative reviewed game on Steam, Starfield.
I haven't even checked that. Like you said, my opinion of the game hasn't really changed. But we'll definitely get into that. So, let's see here. So, it's kind of hard to maneuver around a dog here.
But how are you? How is life? What's the brief rundown?
It's been busy lately with a lot of different things, but it's been good. This past week I've been able to go into work a little bit earlier, so I've had my nights free, just like the rest of the working community. So I've been hanging out with a lot of friends and different games, and just making some podcast appearances here and there on other shows, on friends' shows. And then as always, there's I'm going through a web design class right now, so building websites, web pages out of HTML, and then there's always other things going on. There's always something going on, it seems like. But yeah, what about you?
Yeah, I think I just seem to get progressively busier and busier at work and in my home life. Since I can't remember if I talked about this on previous Starfield Sandwich. Yeah, maybe I did. I've launched another podcast, as you know, which I do every Sunday now. And that was something that I did that I wanted to do because, as I explained on that show, I just wanted a place to kind of talk more broadly about games at length and not just tweet about them, because Twitter really winds me up at the moment. But yeah, so outside of just the usual podcast and stuff, I've done stuff for all the other shows recently. Really busy at work, busy at home. The weather report it's still shit in the UK. So we are, the 16th of March, spring is supposed to be here. We had the wettest February on record, and then through March it has rained, I think, every single day so far for most of the day. And for me, it really, really gets to me because a large part of my job, and I won't sort of divulge too much about the day job, but part of it is like a public attraction, and we rely on the weather being good, otherwise people don't really come out. So yeah, like when the weather is as bad as it's been, it depresses me because it's like, it's bad that the weather's bad, but I know it's having an impact on the business as well. So I try not to lose too much sleep about it. But spring is not here yet. We're not having the sunshine. So I'm ready for the rain to piss off, to be honest with you. But otherwise, I'm fine.
We've had a little bit of rain here lately, but otherwise it's been really nice, and it's been not too hot, not too cold, so perfect to go outside and take a short walk. But oh man, yeah, if it's raining every single day, that's awful.
Yeah, it's basically rained since the start of February every single day. But Starfield is here to brighten our day, Eric, as always.
Yes. So, yeah, we actually had a recent quote-unquote update. Like, it's not officially live yet, but with PC, they had a recent update where finally you can make facial expressions in photo mode, which seems like it's not a big deal, but it really is, especially for those of us who take lots of pictures in the game. It's like, why wasn't this here at launch? Like, yeah, stoic is fine in some cases, but I would like to actually be able to look excited or happy, or that one where he's holding his breath makes me laugh every time I see it, because it looks like he's sitting on the john or something on the toilet. But that also brought in some quest bug fixes, things like that. So they are still having regular updates with the game. Now, they may not be as hefty as we would like.
Yeah.
But that one's going to come eventually. Hopefully sooner rather than later. So I think that maybe they're leading up to that. But yeah, it'll get here hopefully soon.
It feels like Starfield isn't really in the news much at the moment because it's all Fallout in the news, with the TV show and stuff like that. And we won't talk for too long about Fallout. Obviously, we have another show for that. Go and listen to Tapes from the Wastes. But it feels like, I was thinking about this the other day, like, the updates between from Starfield have been a bit few and far between. I was like, Todd Howard is surely just all in on everything for the Fallout show right now and all the promotion and leading up to that. So I imagine as soon as that's out the door, he'll be right there in the studio. Not that he's not doing any work on Starfield, but he'll be back involved with everybody, giving direction and orders and stuff like that. Get this update out. Eric and Kelsey are really pissed off and would like it faster.
Yeah, he was there for the South by Southwest event for the Fallout TV show, which is cool to see.
That looked so good, man. That is how you market a TV show. I've talked about this before. The Halo show has basically been sent out to die for 2 seasons, and there's no real buzz around it. I know that the second season's been received slightly better, but the Fallout show, that South by Southwest stuff, like the trailers, all the buzz around it, the posters, it just feels like if it makes Fallout feel like a bigger franchise than Halo, to be honest with you, which is a weird thing to say because Halo is supposed to be one of the biggest things of all time, but that TV show is kind of been a bit of a flop. But Fallout feels like it's a really big deal, and it's because of stuff like that. The new figurines, the new merchandise. We were just talking about the Pip-Boy thing before we started recording. Yeah. So not a great deal of Starfield news, but loads of Fallout.
Yeah, I mean, when Starfield was first launching, there were some merch things, but it wasn't as widespread as the Fallout stuff. Like, there was that energy drink in the UK that had the promotion with Starfield. We had a little bit, like some of the chip bag, like Doritos bags. I
try not to buy Doritos because I generally just get the cheaper versions that are just as good. But I specifically bought some just because it had Starfield on the front, the packet. So
I know some people who bought physical cred sticks, which I would love to have one of those as well.
Yeah.
But I don't even, where is that stuff now? I would love to have that. Some of my friends got the deluxe edition that has the watch. My friend Charo Miami has the headset, so whenever I see her gaming, she's wearing the Starfield headset, which is really cool. Yeah, I'd love to get that stuff, but I don't even know if it's available anymore. Maybe once Shattered Space launches, they'll put some more merch out there. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, we still don't even really know what that's going to be. We just know it's a thing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we're going to give some DLC chat, I think, later in this episode. Yeah.
So, shall we talk about where we think the game is these days? Like, where the state of the game right now?
Yes. 6 months. A long 6 months. Well, how do you feel? Why don't you go first, 6 months out from the game?
So, all in all, I think it's a great game. I know the internet would kind of have you believe otherwise, but I think it's always been a great game. Compared to some of the other games that people think are just top notch, like it had a much better launch than some of these did, like New Vegas. Yeah, the launch was really smooth compared to that, and they just continue to improve the game. I think people were mainly just waiting on the DLC and some of these other hefty updates. Like, they get impatient waiting for that, but at the same time, it's a Bethesda game. They want you to go out and explore and see everything there is to see, and this game is huge. It's 120, 125 gigs just at launch. There's stuff out there to see. You just have to get your ass out there and see it. And like some of these quests that you would never know were there unless you did, like the Crucible quest, the Colander. I think it's called the Colander. That ship. I posted pictures of that. Like, you would never know that this was there. Like, there's so much out there to go out and see and experience. I can't think of another game that's similar to this, unless, I mean, I'm sure there's comparisons to be made, but I think as far as games that I've played, I can't think of another game that is in this league. Like, there's just so much out there to see and do, like I said earlier, I don't understand how people could call this game ugly. Like, just some of these sites that you see, even on planets that might not have a quest involved in them. Like, there's so much like flora, fauna out there that's just awesome to go. Like, and some of these creatures are no joke. Like the coral bugs, they'll kill you really quick if you're not careful. I don't know if you've ever seen those.
Possibly. Some of the creatures blend into one to me. Some of them look similar, and then some of them are quite unique.
Their heads kind of look like they kind of look like a cross between a praying mantis and a sunflower.
Oh, yeah. I know what you mean.
Yeah, they're no joke. Those things are fast and they hit hard. And like there's planets that look like they're straight out of Jurassic Park.
Yeah,
those are always fun. So, but yeah, what about you? What do you think the game is right now? Like, well, it's definitely got its issues, but
yeah. So I suppose 6 months from launch. We're a little bit over 6 months from launch. Actually, we're probably closer to 7 months. I think for me, the like too long didn't read version is I still love it, and it was definitely one of my favorite games that came out in 2023. Though that being said, I'm kind of a bit like you. I'm just kind of yearning for new ways to play and new reasons to dive in, despite all that good stuff that you just mentioned. And I think really the main reason for this is because this is what Bethesda said their intention was. They want me and you playing this game for years, right? Mm-hmm. And right now I think
10 years.
Yeah, they want us play it for, like, people are still playing Skyrim. They want this to be with people for years. And for me right now, I do want to see a little bit more.
Yeah.
But to expand on that, I suppose, like, for me, this game, Starfield, still, even though we're a few months out now, it still had, for me, some of the most engaging quest lines that Bethesda have ever done. And I think dealing with the Terramorphs felt like I was playing Starship Troopers mixed with Alien, becoming a part of the Freestar Collective. That felt like, okay, if this was reality, this would probably be the group that I'd likely join up with. Ryujin questline was a weak point for me, but then even smaller, like side quests and miscellaneous stuff really caught me off guard, and I thought was done so well. Doing the Breaking Bad style drugs cooking in Neon. I don't know if you've done that, where you got to put the hazmat suit on and everything. Like,
right, yeah, where you could make the Aurora.
Yeah,
I don't think I've actually done that, but I've heard people talk about it.
At first, I was like, "This is really tedious. What am I doing?" And then as it went on, I was like, "I'm just playing Breaking Bad right now, working in the cook factory." And yeah, I loved that. What else? Like the hilarious like snobbery of Paradiso. Love. And then tiny things, tiny non-quest moments like running into Valentine, which I touched on in the 1 month episode we did. Like, I think about that song and that moment all the fucking time. Like, it's so good.
I ran into him again recently too. Yeah,
it's a beautiful moment. And so this, like, all these stories and things that the game is doing, like, plenty of times it stopped me in my tracks. And the weird thing is I do still have criticisms, like you. It's not perfect, and there are moments that playing in those first few months and a little bit this past week that I found a little bit dull, and there's a bit sometimes there's a bit too much go here, do that, and come back sections, which are just kind of there to make you, like explore, and just they want you to look at places, which is fine. I get it. It's a video game. But something about like the way that this world is being laid out in front of me just made the stories feel more like they were existing in a real place. And I think despite all of that stuff that we've seen already, it still feels like we're just scratching the surface of what can be experienced in Starfield.
Yeah. And
yeah, go on.
They're definitely still gonna be adding to it. Like I said, the updates have been pretty regular, but like there's stuff that they're adding that really should have been there at launch. Like the photo mode, like 70. I called it 76 photo mode light, and that was the best way I could think to describe it. Like all this stuff that is in the 76 photo mode, the Starfield photo mode, like I love it, but it just felt bare bones compared to 76. Like that was the model they used, but they took some 76 has been out for over 5 years now. Why are they just now adding stuff to the Starfield photo mode that has been there the entire time?
Yeah, no,
it felt like a major step backward for that.
I'm definitely going to touch on the updates and rate of updates again in a minute, but I think what was I saying? Like, so we're having all this stuff that I've enjoyed laid out in front of us, and I'm seeing the world that's being built. And even as I'm playing, I'm like, there's so much that could be done here, even outside of the game. I want graphic novels or books or an animated series and stuff like that. I think the potential is there. And so even through the dull moments that maybe don't quite capture me, I'm loving the world, and I'm still loving the world as I was those first few weeks in that first month. I think often the game is beautiful, like you've said. It can be awe-inspiring. Like the main hub cities all have their own character and style. Some of the vistas that you just accidentally stumble upon are incredible. Like they feel all different kinds of things. Like some of them feel cold and sort of sad, giving you maybe like time to have a think and reflect, but then others are warm and relaxing, or some that just feel like creepy and threatening. There's so many different flavors like across the planets, and
like I've
definitely had like quite a few profound moments playing the game. I think the conversation you have with yourself before you go into the Unity, I think that delivers some really broad and thought-provoking messages about choice and journeys.
That was really cool. It was like, here's all the choices you made, and here's how they affected this universe.
And the character, I should have the dialogue in front of me, but the sort of monologue that the character you're speaking to, you're speaking to yourself, gives just touches on some really stuff about shedding off the past and making new choices and stuff like that. And I really loved all of that. And I genuinely believe that Starfield is really good at bringing together like all this sincere stuff and all this sincere thought-provoking stuff, this really artistic stuff, while at the same time still being like this really weird, quirky Bethesda fun video game that plays to like the weirdness of Bethesda while still trying something new and a little bit different from what they've done before. And I say all of this like with the understanding that the game didn't deliver what some people were hoping for, and I'll be the first to admit, as like I said, I have issues too. I have criticisms. I'm not happy with how the local maps work, or complete lack of local maps.
Which, from my understanding, that is another thing that's coming down the line. But at the same time, I also understand they were trying to get us to experience it for ourselves. But you can't tell me that they couldn't have included some sort of, like, you go into a mall and they have a map of the mall. Like, they don't have that. Like, you can't just bring that up. Like, you can't tell me that they couldn't have had something like that for New Atlantis or Aquila City. Like, they could have had some sort of, like, stationary, like, physical, like, mall map.
And I completely,
some sort of direction.
I do completely get and because I listened back to that 1 month episode before we did this, and we kind of touched on that. And I get the idea of immersion and wanting to kind of immerse yourself in the world and find your own way around. But like you say, places in the real world have maps and stuff, and at least give us the option to have that there, you know? So that's one thing that does frustrate me. As I mentioned, some of the dialogue is a little bit dull and can be overlong. Some of the conversations, I'm like, yeah, okay, let's just get through this. You know, I'm not ashamed to admit that. It's not all perfect. There are maybe
if your streaming is great for your audience.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny because I play a lot of Starfield listening to a podcast as well, but sometimes you just can't because there is a lot of talking, and I'm like, right, I have to pause the podcast and listen to what they're saying, and then they go on for like 10 minutes. But anyway, some of it's good, some of it's bad. There are maybe one too many loading screens, but that's like a small gripe. I think other games have loading screens, and
they've been very quick.
Yeah, and we'll see
some other games.
More games that come out. We're just going to keep seeing loading screens, I think, as games get bigger and more advanced. And so I do wish that, you know, I do wish there was a little more variation in some of the bases and outposts you find on planets, because yes, it is a little bit copy and paste sometimes. And if you've been playing it for hundreds of hours, you do start to notice that thing. The big thing that I know lots of people complain about is exploration and traversal, which is completely different to Bethesda games in the past, where, okay, you've got your Skyrim map, you've got your Fallout map, you're dropped in the world, and that's it. And you can walk, and you just walk, and you discover everything with walking. And Starfield isn't that, and this is where they've done something different. It's, instead of open worlds, it's open hubs and the planets, right? So there is traveling. The way you traverse and explore is different. But for me, I think getting frustrated about that is maybe an expectation thing rather than trying to appreciate what they're doing with Starfield, because Starfield is a different game. And I think despite all of those shortcomings, which many I can appreciate and understand, some of them I don't. Despite all of the bad stuff, I think it doesn't overshadow like all the good that the game has to offer. And Todd Howard said, the more you put in, the more you get back. And he's mostly right. Like I said, some of the repetition does get to you, maybe the more hours you've played, but there is a lot of story to kind of dig through and find out, and a lot of systems to play with, the, you know, the shipbuilding and the camp building. So he's right there, but I've seen, before we did this episode, I did a bit of YouTube research and was just typing Starfield on YouTube and seeing what people were saying about it recently. And there are some creators or reviewers who have since re-reviewed the game and put hundreds of hours in. Some of them like it and think it's great. Some of them have put hundreds of hours in and are still being overly critical and calling it boring and, you know, depth of a puddle and stuff like that. Depth of a puddle. And I think, for me, at that point, maybe it's just coming down to a taste thing and whatever your reference points are, because I love sci-fi, I love Alien, I love Interstellar, like all these things that the game draws from. Starfield does enough for me to make me love it, even if it does those things that kind of infuriate me too. And I promise I'll shut up in a minute, but like,
no, it's completely fine.
I do believe that Starfield, so much of the, I suppose, hate it's received online in the past 6 months is from a lot of people who haven't played it, some people with an axe to grind. You know, people, me included, beg for new IPs all the time. We want something new. We don't want to just keep seeing remakes and retreads and stuff like that. And we finally get one, and loads of people are like, oh no, I don't want that new thing. Why is it not like Skyrim? Right. Why is it not like Fallout? And it's just, yeah, like it's like even people in the Starfield Facebook groups, like they're just like nonstop complaining. I'm like, why are you even here? Yeah, it's really
this is a Starfield fan group. Like, why are you here just complaining the entire time?
People love to complain. That's just the way things are these days. And like, I feel like I know as a Bethesda fan what their flaws are. I've touched on it before, and most of the time it's not what I see other people calling out online. Instead, I just see, like I say, I see them kind of whinging about them not getting what they wanted, and I think the game has been painted unfairly as lacking depth, and I just don't agree, because I don't understand if you've actually played 100 hours of this game, and I get some people don't want to play 100 hours, fine, there's other games out there that you can go play, fine, But if you're playing 100 hours and still saying it lacks depth, to me that's just crazy, because the universe that we're being presented with, as well as the promise of kind of what's to come, is huge. And I could never say that Starfield lacks depth. And I think, and I do believe that time is going to be very kind to this game. I think time is going to be kind to Starfield.
Too, yeah.
I think even though it's technically not a live service game, we've been promised support and content coming in, so we have to maybe kind of treat it like a live service game. And effectively, we're still in like Act 1 of Starfield. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I'm not playing it every day. This past week was the first time I've touched the game since the middle of January, and I want more reasons to play, like lots of others out there. I want alternative means of travel. I would love for new stories, and, you know, the mods, like, give me the mods as well, the console mods. And I just think,
for sure,
so much of
that, I think that's coming too, because they've been
it's got to be soon,
playing around with the with how mods work. Like, I think they're going to be adding the Creation Club to Starfield here sooner rather than later.
That will give such a big reason to dive in. Like, even me playing it this last week, like, you know, just exploring those planets and stuff, I took a long enough break from it to kind of re-enjoy what it has to offer. And I think, to maybe like put a finer point on it, is so much of what Starfield is, its themes about taking a journey and all this kind of stuff. I believe we have to accept it. We are the early stages of the journey with Starfield, and there's so much I love. I understand some of the criticisms. 6 months out, I'm still blown away by this game, despite it not being perfect. Sorry, I know it was a bit of a ramble, but
no, it's all good. It's what we're here for.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like you, I think that people have been very unfair with their criticism. It's just such. I really hate the hate bandwagon that people have with everything. Like, they'll find the smallest thing to complain about everything. And it's so ridiculous. Like, I will say that some of the procedural generation with Starfield does get repetitive after a while. Like, you land on a planet that doesn't have a major plot point, and you'll just know, okay, well, you go this way, you'll find some abandoned facility, and it's going to have spacers or ecliptic. You know, okay, cool. You know, you want to go kill them, but, you know, it does get repetitive, where it's like, you know that these planets are going to have these different features. Now, it will have some other ones like life signs, and you'll find like a fungal grotto or something, which is always nice to see. But that does, again, get repetitive. I mean, it makes for some nice pictures, but it's like, after a while, you're like, okay, I've seen that, done that. But at the same time, there's 1,000 different location, like planets or space stations that you can land on. So you're not going to get the same thing with every system. So, like, systems usually have some barren planets, but there are some planets with life on them, and some have a lot more than others. Some may have like 5 planets and a handful of moons. Other ones will have like 10 planets and a ton of moons on top of that. So it's just, you never know what you're going to get unless you just go out there and look. And you can spend 10 years doing that. And that's just with one universe. You get, I don't know how going through the Unity may affect some of that. Aside from what you walk into with Constellation, I don't know if it changes things other than that. If you know, please let me know. But yeah, like you said, it's not as shallow as people make it out to be.
No. And
it's not nearly as trash as a lot of people on the internet would want you to believe. I know so many content creators that, and we'll get into this later on, that put tons of Starfield content out. Like, there's machinimas, there's people who post so many different pictures a day just from going out there and seeing these sites. It's just, you gotta make, and people say the same thing out of 76. I know so many people who find amazing things to do in 76. It's not it's all on what you make it. Like, they give us the dough or the clay, and we can mold this into something that we really enjoy. You just have to have the creativity to do it. So yeah, there are some things that I would love for them to add, but like you said, I think a year or two from now, there's going to be so much more to this game to enjoy, even more. We'll be getting Shattered Space, and who knows, that may be. I know some people speculated this could be the Phantom Liberty to Starfield.
Yeah.
I don't know how much there is to that, but it very well could be.
And I want to tread very lightly in comparing this game to other games, because I hear it a lot. They're like, it's not as good as Cyberpunk, it's not as good as Baldur's Gate. Like, I don't care.
Those are completely different genres.
Completely different. I'm not playing Starfield for what those other games are offering. And okay, you want to say that they share certain DNA and tropes of RPGs and stuff like that. I'm a fan of the style that Bethesda have been working to for years. And I don't think this game is a huge stretch from that. I think the exploration part is the only real fundamental change from previous games. And that's what's going to happen. I don't want to... This isn't No Man's Sky. I didn't really want to be able to get in my ship and fly non-stop, uninterrupted. I don't want to do that. I'm fine with
how long that would take.
Yeah, I'm fine with the hub nature of it, and it presents Bethesda's style in a different format. And that's for two reasons. This is something they wanted to try. This is the world, and of course, there's technical limitations. Like, you can't do what Bethesda do in their games. That, we talked about the trade-offs in the past, the object permanence and being able to do whatever you want with the characters, put pots on their head and stuff like that. You can't do all that and still have uninterrupted travel and everything that people say, oh, why hasn't it got this? Why hasn't it got that? Fine. If it's not,
it for what it is.
If it's not giving you, yeah, exactly. If it's not giving you what you want, fine. I am appreciating what it does. And look, in terms of lack of depth, of course, some of the planets are going to be barren. Of course, not all the side quests are going to be superb, sort of stop you in your tracks type deals, and they're just going to be little fetch things. That's the same with every single video game. There's no, and people might call me wrong, but I can't think of a single video game I've played in my life where I've gone, wow, every single side quest was 5 stars, top tier. It just doesn't happen. There's always weaker parts of the game, and Starfield has. There is. I've heard people say, "Oh, it's quantity over quality," and it's look. I don't agree. Like, there's going to be a range of quality. There will, because of the quantity. But for me, I just want to reiterate, I'm willing to accept that we're in Act 1. This is the early stages, and I'm not trying to defend stuff that people don't like. I'm just trying to offer a different take on this, because, as I keep repeating, I have similar frustrations, but I'm not going to write the game off. I'm not going to write off the incredible world building that they're doing here. Like I say, this bold new IP that people just don't do anymore. I have so much time put aside for them to see, okay, I'm so excited to go on this journey with you. You've planted the seeds. You've given me this launch game, which I've loved for the most part. But yeah, I'm on standby for more. And I think to write them off and say, oh yeah, it's trash and stuff like that, there's no point. What a waste of time. It's just like, oh, give us Elder Scrolls 6. We don't want to play Starfield. I think it's an insult to the work that's gone into this. And, you mentioned just the polish and the way the game run. Last year was a great year for video games with all the big games we had. Loads of games came out that didn't even run, that had bugs. Some of my favourite games, Alan Wake 2, I couldn't even play that for a week because the audio kept cutting out at the start. Like, Starfield, new game pluses are sold as are kind of treated like DLC. Spider-Man 2 is only just getting its new game plus. Starfield launched with a new game plus. Can we talk about the things that it did right, for this and the scope that it has,
as opposed to focusing on the negative?
Exactly. And I'm so just kind of tired of it, because and everyone points to Steam. Oh, look, see, it's mostly negative, and it's like, I don't know, those aggregate sites and aggregate reviews have
People
got
were
problems.
Review bombing it long before it even launched because I can't play it, so it's automatically bad. But this sounds so weird for games that are out, but it's kind of the world we live in these days. To quote the great Sam Roberts, let them cook.
Yes, 100%. And, that's a phrase that everybody likes to use these days. And I don't want to sit here with like rose-tinted glasses on and people say, oh, yeah, you're just a fanboy. Like, okay, one, I am a fanboy. I tell you that now. I am a fanboy. But two, like, I know that I'm a fanboy that can self-reflect and I can think about what I'm saying. I don't just talk. I mean, I do talk nonsense. I absolutely do talk nonsense, but I don't just do it. I've thought about this episode. I've thought about what I wanted to say today. I think about stuff, and it's why I have so many podcasts. It's why I like talking about this stuff. I'm not just spitting out tweets, spitting out stupid hot takes for engagement or to jump on any bandwagons. Look at Suicide Squad, a game which has been absolutely lambasted, right, in recent weeks for various reasons. I played Suicide Squad start to finish and engaged with some of the live service nature of it. The game's fine. As a game,
love to play. I need to play that at some point.
The production value is unbelievable. It's got some of the highest production value you'll see in a video game these days. The gunplay is tight. The characters are funny. The story is digestible. The problem is, it's not what people wanted. It's not the new Arkham game. Instead, it's a live service game. And then you get to the end of the campaign and, there's just these 3 missions. You got to keep grinding. It's like, yeah, that's what live service is. I'm sorry if you don't like it. But the devs of that game have come out and made it explicitly clear that they're really proud of the work that they put in. And they don't want to... People have said, they've just been forced to do this. Nobody wanted it. No, that's not true. They put a lot of love and heart into it. Kevin Conroy is in the game. They pay tribute to him. Like, there's... I on my new show, I talked about the Gaming Aroma podcast. There's my plug for it.
Yes.
Go and listen to it. I did talk more about Suicide Squad, but it's just another example of bandwagon hating, and it just takes one thing to kind of kick off and go viral and for the hate to really kind of blow up. Now, I'm not saying that it doesn't have faults, and yes, I kind of wish I didn't really want a live service game. I would have preferred a more story-driven Suicide Squad game like the Arkham games, but I can put that aside and I can say, right, so what did they give me? Let's test this out. If the game was so bad, I wouldn't have put the 30 plus hours or 40 hours into it. I just don't think it would have been possible for me to do that. And there is a very, you said it's people just like to do it and jump on this bandwagon. And I know what I sound like when I'm saying this, that, you just don't know what you're talking about. You're just your tastes are, I think my tastes are very varied, and I'm often finding that they don't generally align with the mainstream, but then sometimes they do. Sometimes I'm all in on what's trendy, but then sometimes I'm not. I'm just honest about my tastes and I'm honest about what I enjoy. And I thought, I'm going to play Suicide Squad because
people should be allowed to enjoy what they enjoy without being dumped on for it. Like, I'm one of the few people that actually really enjoyed the Avengers game. Now, I only played the story, but I thought the story itself was great. And, I didn't get into all the multiplayer nonsense, but for what it was, the game was great. Like, the story was, like, it kept me playing the whole way through. And I'm not one that typically finishes games. I typically get burnt out and move on to something else and then come back and like, okay, what the hell was I doing? Okay, never mind. But I actually played that story from start to finish. But because of the bandwagon hate that the game got, it no longer really exists.
Yeah, and like,
which is a shame.
Yeah, and like, I don't get me wrong, like, I get the problem with live service, this idea that they're expecting games to basically become your jobs and stuff like that. Both of us play Fallout 76. I've said many times, I don't play Fallout 76 for the live service nature. Loads of people do, but I absolutely appreciate the work that goes into the the expeditions and stuff, which are effectively live service quests. They are. But, we're going to get new story stuff, which I'm excited about. And Fallout 76, for all its faults, it persists while all the other live service games have fumbled. Not all of them, while many of them have fumbled.
Yeah.
And
Where's Anthem?
I get the conversation around live service. We can't expect everyone to just be playing these one games forever, and it's a business thing where the companies, the studios, they want the slice of that Destiny and Apex and Fortnite pie where people are buying battle passes and stuff. I get it. I'm not stupid. I just think I just think you can't, just because that's not what you want, you can't use that.
Doesn't make it bad
as criticism and say this is bad because it's not what I want. Suicide Squad's bad because it's not a new Arkham game starring Batman. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Appreciate for what it is. And then this brings me back round to Starfield. It's not what I want. It's not got the same exploration feeling as Skyrim and stuff like that. It's different. It's a different exploration. It's Bethesda trying something different. They're building a new world, and they've talked about new ways to travel. For all we know, they'll bring more closed off areas that are largely dense and more packed, and maybe those people will get what they want. But I just think so much gets overlooked about Starfield because of the stuff that people didn't want. And I'm willing to agree with and say, there's these faults. I'm kind of with you on some of the stuff, but the level of disdain and hatred towards it is I've never seen anything like it. And we'll sort of move on, I suppose, from that. But
we could use this as a way to lead into DLC and what we want to see down the road from it, because like I said, we really don't know what Shattered Space is. I've got some ideas. I know some other people have some ideas as to what they think it could be. Could be a few things, but we don't really know. I myself am hoping that we kind of get a flashback to either the Narian War or the Colony War. A lot of people want to see more of the Varun, myself included. Mm-hmm. We could get a DLC that sheds light on the Varun War, because we don't even have a base location for where the Varun is. You see them a lot in the Serpentine system, but we don't see a base aside from the embassy in New Atlantis.
Secret. Yeah.
So, what are your ideas for where this could go?
Well, like I've said in the past, I think the House Varun story is just there waiting to be told. So there's a good chance that's a big part about the DLC. But then something that occurred to me just while playing it these past few days is, when I finally did once again go through the Unity and that conversation you have with yourself, is the creators, and who are they, and who put the Unity there, who built these temples. Because those temples, for me, I loved those temples while playing the game, and you don't really know anything about them. You don't know who put them in. I think you ask the question, who are they, and that you
where did
yourself,
the multiverse come from?
And you say to yourself, now is not the time. You may find out one day, but it's not today. Who and why and all this stuff. I want to know, and maybe they won't play that. I imagine they won't play that card just yet, because that feels like playing the big reveal too early, and maybe that's a couple of DLCs
Where did the
down the line.
Go? They always like to have those sort of mysteries that are kept that way. Who started the Great War? Where did the Dwemer go?
I think they do need to pay off who the creators are one day, and I think it's going to be very much possibly like a Prometheus style situation where these humanoid creatures maybe that seeded planets and stuff, which I'd be happy with. But I think House Varun, it's waiting there. I mean, Shattered Space feels a bit like time travel-y, breaking reality, Shattered Space. I think maybe I'm reading too much into it. It's not called if the DLC was called Eyes of the Serpent or something, you think, okay, it's going to be about House Varun. But it's called Shattered Space, which doesn't kind of invoke House Varun and the religious stuff. It invokes more about, shattering reality and maybe breaking something to do with the multiverse or time travel even. So, I don't know, but I'm excited to see. I mean, I wish it was out. It's, I don't know when. I mean, hopefully
we have a date or something. Yes.
These it takes a long time. I get it. It's a big game, and these things take a long time to get right. Elden Ring's DLC is going to be like 2.5 years later that it finally came out. Phantom Liberty was 3 years later. So Starfield coming out a year later, I suppose. Can we hold it against it? Not really. So we may not get it till September, I think. But I definitely think we'll see it at the Xbox June showcase when they show all their games.
It does seem like they're kind of preparing for it with all the behind the scenes stuff they've been doing lately. Like I said, they've been making adjustments to the Creation Club service, so hopefully they'll be adding that soon. And they have been giving us.
They also, I read a thing that on Steam the app got updated and it added like a space for what is effectively like an extension of the game. So people say, oh yeah, this would probably be the DLC. It's like unknown or something. This was a couple of weeks ago.
I heard that with Skyrim. And,
I feel like maybe they'll get all the Fallout stuff out the way first. I think they will launch the show. I don't see them dropping Shattered Space between now and the launch of the Fallout show.
Split their focus.
Yeah, I think they're all in on Fallout at the moment, which is fine. It's cool. Like, I would love for the DLC to be out in summer. But yes, I'm kind of fully prepared for it to be closer to August and September. Yeah. What do you feel about like general pace of other updates that you talked about the photo mode, but so 6 months, have we had enough added?
They've been giving us updates like every 6 weeks or so. So it's been pretty regular.
They've been small,
which is good to see.
They've been very small.
That's the thing. They haven't been nearly as big as people have been hoping for. So there's been the gripes online about that, but at least they've been regular. Like, they haven't been getting delayed and pushed off like a month or two or anything like that. Like, they have been steady. There's been a steady, granted, small stream of updates.
I just would have liked. I would have liked like one big new feature by now, because like again, I get it. It's a big game, and just patching. You look at some of those patch notes, and it's like 200 things. They're all minor and stuff, but they've done this, that, this, and that. But for me, like there hasn't been nothing that's like say they added a rover or something like that to go across planets. One new feature, or they added those local maps, and I know they're coming.
That may be the new way of travel that they've been teasing, because I can't think of any other way that could mean. I mean, we can already fast travel from planet surfaces and things like that.
We need some kind of Land Rover, and so I do like. I don't want to sit here and sound spoiled. In our 1 month episode, I think the way we were talking, we'd have felt like some of these updates had come by now. And we in that previous episode, we were talking about photo mode and saying, there's not enough expressions or anything like that. And at that point, there was no announcement of any coming. But it's just funny that 6 months later, the big new update is you can smile in your photos now. And it's like, okay, that's
Vasco
great.
Can have some expression too.
I just wish there was maybe at least just one substantial feature to kind of tweak the way that I play the game, and that hasn't really arrived yet. It's more been very stream bug fixes and stuff, and I get that maybe that's the right thing to do. You want the game to be smooth, and you want all those bugs fixed before you start dropping any new big dominoes into the pile, because it might knock it out of place, so fine with it. I just want more. I'm just greedy, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it's great, and people really should appreciate for what it is. But like we've been saying, I think it's going to be a much richer experience in the next year. So, I mean, it's already rich, but I think, in the next year or two, it's going to be a much different experience. What have you been doing in the game lately? I know you said that you've been playing it a lot lately.
Well, so basically, I just made sure I jumped back in, like for this episode, because I haven't played it since like the middle of January. But this past week, I jumped back in. I finally committed to New Game Plus and to going Starborn, because I checked it out before, and then I came back, and then I checked it out again, and I came back, and I really I wasn't super jazzed about just losing all of my stuff, but I think
Yeah,
enough time had passed where I was like, okay, finally, I'll just do it, and I'll get ready for this 6 months of Starfield discussion we're having, and I'll start again. I'll start fresh, and yeah, and that's been great. So it's really just the past few days I've done that. I skipped the main quest, and I've just been going around re-familiarizing myself with the themes of the game and what you can do, just gathering artifacts, photo mode excursions and stuff like that, and just having a play around. And what was the mission I did? I just came off last night. I did the failure to communicate quest, which is where you have Alban Lopez and these two other characters. He has like a broken satellite that he needs repairing, and the spacers are terrorizing their star system, and you need to bring them together. And so they put aside their differences for the fight against the spacers, which is a quest line I had done before, but I really liked that, and that was good. This morning I found a secret star station, because I was doing some YouTubing and seeing what other people were doing in Starfield, and there was like, here's a thing that everybody missed, and there was this star station where there's some contraband and stuff, and I got all the way to the end, and one of the doors was a master lock, and I couldn't undo it, so I couldn't progress any further. So yeah, just re-familiarizing myself, and yeah, I got lots more to say like today, but yeah, it's bloody good, isn't it? Starfield's a bit bloody good, yeah. Eric.
And I haven't really. I know there are people who just like, okay, I want to rush to New Game Plus 10. I have not been like that.
No.
I don't even think I would have gone New Game Plus 2 had I not had that bug with New Atlantis where it, like, so much of the port just decided to go missing.
Yeah, I thought about that, yeah.
So it's like, I started out doing all the quests that I could find, which apparently there's still some out there that I haven't done. And then, okay, now I can take my time and explore, which is basically what I've been doing since then. But yeah, I had that bug where a lot of the port of New Atlantis went up and disappeared. So I'd load in and you'd see people spawn where they should be and then just drop to the planet's surface, which was actually kind of funny. But, after a while I was like, okay, I need to see if I can fix this. And apparently going through the Unity fixed it again. With that first New Game Plus, I told them I would go through the story because you have the choice of whether or not to skip the story or not. And I decided not to, which actually did lead to some changes with how the story played out. I don't know if I should get into the spoilers or not, but there's this one. What the hell?
I think spoilers are fine now. Yeah, spoiler warning for anybody who's not played the main quest, I suppose.
There's this point where the hunter shows up at the lodge, and one or the other is at the eye, and based on which one you go to, the other one dies. Like one of the members of Constellation dies. There is a way to avoid that if you go New Game Plus. Like you can use your Starborn knowledge of how things have played out with the previous universe, and you can use that to your advantage. So I was able to save everybody. And there's some other differences too. Like you can speak to the other Starborn, with your prior knowledge and everything. But other than that, I was like, I've pretty much done everything. Why do I need to go through this all again? So I'm just going to go take my time and explore everything else there is to see. Which is not how I play games. I usually need a story to keep me invested in it. Mm-hmm. But this, people who say that Starfield is ugly, I don't know what they're smoking. Like, it's so like, I've loved just going through, seeing all the sites, taking pictures. Like I'd mentioned, Jessica Starr had that photo challenge going through February, and she decided to include Starfield on that. So It was basically anything that started with a letter of the alphabet. So I took it upon myself to highlight different locations in the game, because, because number one, it's really cool to go see these places. But number two, if there's a quest involved with it, then you can also highlight that quest that takes you to these places. Some of the letters were a bit of a challenge. So I think there was at least one or two that I had to skip with one game or the other. But that also had me doing my research a little bit to actually go and find these places. Like the system I'm in now is the Zelazny system, and it's got some pretty lively planets in it. Now, I don't know if that's specific to the fact that I'm in a different universe or not. I still have yet to find one of those crazy ones that you see some people posting of, like where all of Constellation is either a child or a plant or whatever crazy shit that you hear. But yeah, and they have had some fixes. Like you said, it was kind of a shame leaving that Prime universe. And I think this is part of the reason why Jess decided to go back to her Prime universe and not go through the Unity, is because you lose all your stuff.
Yeah, it's hard, man. Like it's a big ask to put all that effort into your camp building, your base building, your ships, and for that to all go is like thematically I get it for why they do it, but playing, that's why initially I reverted, but I reverted back twice. But this time I was like, I'm ready to start fresh, and I let it all go. So, and I do have my save. If I need to jump back, then I can.
You spend so much time and money building these ships only for it all to disappear.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I created a couple of different unique ships, and the ones that I've been building since then have basically been like my first one with just a different paint job. But the Wyvern was really unique. I would have loved to have been able to keep that. And, you go through and do these quests, like the Mantis quest that you talked about recently. Like, you don't get to keep that. And that suit is, you need to save scum before you actually collect the suit, because it could have a bunch of different random effects on it. So you just
did not even know that.
I guess it's the same with the Starborn stuff that you get when you go Starborn. We go through the Unity, the effects that the weapon and Starborn suit effects that you get are random. I think the look of it's the same based on how many times you've gone New Game Plus. But yeah, there was one, like my original Mantis suit had this effect. Number one, it increased my carry weight. But it also had this effect where when somebody hits me with a melee attack, they'd get lit on fire. But yeah, so if you didn't know that, definitely save scum before you collect the Mantis suit. And then there's other effects that it could have, like it will boost your oxygen decretion or slow it down or whatever. But yeah, it's like to be able to keep that stuff. Yeah, when you go through the Unity, all you have is a Starborn ship, a suit, and one weapon. And the suit is all one piece, so you don't have like a different helmet or pack. Well, yeah, your pack is in the suit too. So, don't get me wrong, the suit's cool, and the weapons, like I had a hard target the first time I went through the Unity that I used the entire time, but the ship is not all that great. It's agile and its weapons are decent, but that's it. Like, it doesn't even have a bed. So I heard somebody, I was like, why the hell doesn't it have a bed? Like, even as a Starborn, you can sleep to regain your energy and everything like that. It doesn't have any workshops or anything. Like, you cannot customize the Starborn ship. So, like, you can't build on it.
And I discovered that. So this past week, because like I say, I committed to the New Game Plus, and I was like, right, I like using this ship, but it's also kind of trash, and I just keep getting blown up. And even though I'm a really high level and some of my perks and skills are really sort of ranked up, I just kept dying to nice. Level 25 and 30 spacer ships. They were easily taking me out, and I was like, right, I'll go and upgrade it. And the guy's like, hey, what a ship. That looks great. Or that looks old or something like that.
Yeah, they're like, what is that? What is that even made of?
And then you can't upgrade it. Like, okay, that's kind of disappointing. Maybe we can in future. I don't know.
I think I remember Ray saying each time you go through the Unity, the enemies will be will be slightly tougher. So I think that could be part of that.
I do play on hard as well. I do play on hard.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
because I'm just such a professional gamer. That's me.
So I mean that does suck. Like, you spend so much time and money, and shipbuilding is like, people, like, they say, like, by the end of the game you should be rolling in money. No, because it all goes to shipbuilding. And Jess told me about this trick of being able to sell a ship without paying for the registration. So that did work for a while, and then they patched that out.
All right.
Of course they did. I've heard that some people still are able to get it to work, but no, I haven't. I don't even bother anymore because it never worked for me. So it's like, you have the ship that you're wanting to sell to the very left on the menu. So when you flip to that, you can immediately, quickly hit the button to sell it, and it will do that. But it doesn't work anymore. Right or left, I can't remember. But yeah, I don't even bother with it. And it's like, you want people to take advantage of this, make it profitable. Like, yeah, you can go steal ships, and some of the ships are pretty lucrative if you didn't have to pay for the registration fees, which is like 2,000 or 3,000 less than what you would get for it. So it's like, why even bother? I mean, don't get me wrong, I love stealing ships, and I steal ships all the time. Whenever I land on a planet, if I hear one land, I drop what I'm doing and go to steal it.
But can you explain to me, because I tried to do that, and I don't know if I'm just being stupid, but most of the time when I try to do that, it just says you're not authorized to use this ship. But my ship skill is like maxed out. So
your piloting skill and everything?
Yeah, so I don't really understand what's going on. If it's not maxed out, it might be maybe the second level down or whatever it is.
Yeah, if your piloting skills maxed out, you should be able to. I don't
yeah, like I seem to always struggle with actually making that work. And again, I don't know if this is a bug, but because last time when we talked about the 1 month thing, when we did the 1 month episode, I discovered, or you told me, that you can use the flight simulator to upgrade your skills, and which is what I did. And I was like, great, now I can finally get a decent ship. And my own ship was good. I got the because after I finished the Freestar Collective quest line, I used that ship for like 30 hours. But then
I love the Star Eagle. Yeah.
Then there's the one you get, I think, that Stroud.
You build a strip with Shroud Eklund, the Kepler.
Yes, that one, which is really good. And I was using that sort of like late game. So there was nothing kind of wrong with my piloting skills, I don't think. But for some reason, anytime I try to pick up like a random ship, it's just like, nah, you're not authorized to use it. And I'd kill everyone, and then just couldn't do anything with the ship. So I must be doing something wrong. Weird. But yeah.
Yeah, basically you just take everybody out that's on the ship, and then you go and sit down in the pilot seat, and then it's yours. You can claim it.
Weird.
Huh.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, like, just playing a little bit this week, but I think the biggest part about my experience playing it in these last few days is, I think, just absorbing, all that stuff about the world, like I mentioned, because I haven't done loads of quests. I skipped the main quests, and I will do the main quest again. I just wasn't ready at this point. I was like, I don't want to get bogged down before the podcast. I'll skip that, and I'll just go do some, basically just do some exploring. And I've fallen back in love with that. And I noticed through my sort of YouTube research and stuff, there are definitely some quests I still haven't done yet. I mean, I want to spend some time just kind of experiencing some things for myself. Eric, I still have not encountered Grandma in Starfield.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
I've encountered her a few times.
Yeah, which is wild to me. And before the game launched, not before it launched, not long after it launched, a few people I heard talk about this quest where you stumble upon a star station where the gravity system is faulty and it keeps turning on and off.
Oh, yeah.
Have you done that?
There's a couple of those. There's a casino that's inhabited by spacers and the gravity's off.
Yeah, because I haven't done that.
I can't remember what the name of it is. It starts with an A.
That one always sounded to me like so awesome about, because that really shows off like what Starfield does. And to just focus on some of the nuance of the positives of the game, the way gravity is different has a huge impact on the way you play and the way you explore. So to be on like a star station with it just sort of switching on and off, that sounds awesome.
I think
I want to find that quest and do that in sort of my game.
I think the one you're
gameplay.
talking about is inhabited by Ecliptic.
I think so, yeah.
Because it actually is a space station.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of it. But yeah, I think I have been there. I just don't remember what it's called.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm just going to... It's funny because I was replaying a lot of Elden Ring, but I've kind of moved that aside for Starfield now. I'm going to, I think for the next week or so, just be playing a lot more Starfield. Really getting photo mode, enjoying photo mode. I can't even speak. Yeah, and I guess I'll explore... Well, I say I was going to experiment with some more base building and shipbuilding, but because I've done New Game Plus, I'm skint and I don't have any money or materials, so I can't really do that. I'm just going to absorb it and read some of the notes and things and go re-experience the museum, dive back into the lore, maybe do some research for a lore episode we've got coming up. But yeah, is there any other gameplay things you've been doing?
Honestly, I'm really hoping that they do kind of rehaul base building, because that was also something that I think was kind of lackluster.
Yeah,
especially compared to everything you can do in 76. Like it's nice, but it needs a lot more added to it as well, and a lot more customization. And there's not really much point to it outside of getting materials for research. But like if you're wanting it as a personal base where you can build things and like customize your weapons and everything, all that shit you can do on your spaceship.
Yeah,
like there's really not much point to it other than material gathering. Like you can sleep on your spaceship. I mean, you can put your own personal ship builder there, which is nice. That way you can not have to go to a planet that you'll get a bounty for having contraband or something like that. And you can also, speaking of bounty, you can also put a bounty terminal, bounty clearing terminal there.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, there's really not much point to investing in a base.
Yeah. I did it to get... So I guess, we haven't really touched on it, but I did it to get... I have all the achievements now, so I did basically the bare minimum of the base building and, the transferring materials across planets and stuff like that. What was I saying? Yeah, so I have all the achievements, which I was really pleased with. And I've been doing a lot of achievement hunting lately. And if I have all the achievements in a game, I'm generally not playing it at the moment. But that's the difference with Starfield. I've got all the achievements and I don't care. I'm happy to explore and find some more. So I do obviously hope they add more achievements in the future. And like you say, give you a reason.
I imagine they will with Shattered Space.
Yeah.
Like that.
I do like that with the base building. It's so different from Fallout because everything's nice and clean and new. And I know in 76 you can get some new stuff, but it's not grimy. But I do like the aesthetic of Starfield, and I think for people that want to take photos and try out new things, there's a lot in there to do with the base building, but there's no huge reason to mess around with it unless you're just so obsessed with diving into that right now. I mean, I'm sure so I guess with Fallout 4 they did a couple of the DLCs were very focused on base building, right? So they might do something like that for Starfield, and like here's a bunch of new here's a bunch of new stuff, go and build, and I'll check it out. But at the moment it's not really on my agenda. I'm just sticking to exploring and soaking it all up.
Yeah, that's like I said, since I've gone New Game Plus, I haven't really touched base building. Like it was fine for what it was, and I made sure to have 5 different connected bases for the achievement.
Yeah,
that was really the extent of it. But is there anything else you want to touch on as to where you want to see this go?
Well, I think, like I say, I'm just kind of keen for a few more features and new ways to play and stuff like that. But in terms of myself, I'm just going to I'm sure I'll get quote unquote bored of Starfield again in a couple of weeks, and then I'll just be keen and waiting for the DLC. But like I mentioned, I need to, since I've been playing it this past few days, I was like, I've got Sarah coming around with me as a companion at the moment, which I just never had before.
She also gets such a bad rap that's unwarranted.
Yeah, and just thinking about companions and, this show and this podcast, I was like, maybe I might pick a character and like really exhaust their dialogue and quest line and do, get my arse in gear and do a lore episode on one of those, because there's so much, to discover. And despite me finishing the main quest and finishing all the achievements, I'm speaking to Sarah now and she's saying things that I've never heard before. And there's still plenty of new things for me to discover. So always just keen for more Starfield. I'm just going to, keep playing it and absorbing it, as I keep saying.
Mostly I've just been going around exploring, although I do see people posting things on Twitter and things like that. I was like, I don't think I've ever experienced that, or maybe I have and it's just been a long time. Like Jessica Starr posted something recently from the Nishina labs, and I was like, I don't think I've been there. I don't remember that at all. Like, that is like, I need to go out there and see that, add that to my list of things to do. And she's like, oh, you've definitely been there. I'm like, wait, what? When?
There is...
okay, I get.
Now you mention it, in terms of things I haven't seen, I've just Googled it. So I read an article, saw something on Twitter where someone talked about the quest Final Thoughts, which is like it's supposed to be one of the most heartbreaking quests in Starfield. And I followed some instructions to access it, but it wasn't there. And I think it can appear on maybe a few different planets. So I'm not going to spoil it here, but it's to do with like a family story, and I think a man maybe losing his wife and child. But I read it, I was like, I want to experience that. I
don't remember that either.
I went to where somebody on Reddit said it was, and other people were like, it's not there for me. I found it here on this planet. I thought, oh God, so is it just like a random thing that's going to pop up on a planet? So there's quests out there that I haven't done, and there are reasons for me to keep digging around,
Some of those random encounters are great. Like, Ray kept bringing up the one where everybody poisoned themselves. Like, they went to sleep and took some poison, and like you board the ship and everybody's dead. I never encountered that one. I did encounter one where somebody called out for help, and then once I boarded the ship, everybody died. They were already dead because it was infested with giant insects. That was interesting. But that's the thing. There's just that kind of speaks to the game, where it's like so many people have different experiences just because of some of these random encounters. I was going through like I said, that photo mode challenge, and unfortunately, because I was in a New Game Plus that I hadn't really done much with outside of exploration, some of these locations weren't accessible yet, or if they were, it wasn't to the degree it would be if you'd gotten a quest or an encounter that you would have otherwise. Like some of these locations just weren't there because I hadn't been prompted to go there for one reason or another. But I mean, that's really what I've been doing. Like I said, that Nishina Labs is on my list to visit, because apparently I've been there, but I've slept since then and I don't remember what it was or what quest took me there, but apparently there was. I've been there before. But I'm not playing nearly as much as I did. I'm definitely waiting for Shattered Space to come out, but that's the nice thing, though, is you can just take your time and see the sights even without quests prompting you to go to certain places.
I think taking the break really helped me. Like I say, I mean, after I finished it in December, I didn't play for like a couple of weeks, and then I played a little bit in January, and then I haven't played since the middle of January until this week, and it just feels fresh and brand new, and so that really helped kind of rekindle my enjoyment for it. So, but it's definitely not like other people aren't playing Starfield, because there's loads of people online playing it and sharing content, as you mentioned.
Yeah, so we can definitely go through and name some of our favorites here. I've got a few. I don't know who you'd like to highlight.
I mean, besides yourself and the photos you share, obviously, we name drop all the time, but I think the photos that Jess shares are fantastic. The photos that Jay shares are fantastic as well. There's just a few there's a few accounts on Twitter that make a habit of sharing screenshots from Starfield like every day.
Overboss,
and
King
I never
Fan
and I just don't get bored of it. I mean, just great work, guys, because I'm someone that loves playing with photo mode as well, and it inspires me and makes me want to play the game every time. A large part of, I think, wanting to do this 6 months of Starfield episode is down to those other creators online, specifically Twitter.
It definitely helps keep the community active, for sure.
Yeah, so, kind of huge props to all them, because it made me miss the game, and I think, again, those photos, like you said, just prove that Starfield is not an ugly game. It's a beautiful game. And
it yeah, like you said, it inspires me. Like, seeing Jess and Jay Duke's photos are part of why I got into digital photography myself, and have gotten so invested in going out, seeing these sites, taking these pictures. And I've learned so much just from like talking to Jess and Jay. Like, okay, how did you do that?
Yeah.
Like, it's helped me become a better photographer. But just going out, it's like, okay, I need to go find where this is, so I can do that. Take something close to what they did. But then, the photo, I keep bringing up the photo challenge. The photo challenge also helped me find other virtual photographers through that.
Yeah.
And so I've seen several other people. Like I mentioned, the Overboss. There's King Fan Man. There's Aurora Stormbringer, I think is what her name is. So many other fantastic digital photographers. But there's also other content creators out there. I mean, of course, the Fallout feed constantly talks about Starfield on their show. There's Frontier Stories of Starfield. There's the Starfield Lorecast. There's Lorefield. There's plenty of other great podcast content out there as far as Starfield goes.
What I will say is be careful when you type Starfield in YouTube. Unfortunately, most of it is just people hating on the game, which is really frustrating. Like, and as I mentioned, I really don't like using Twitter at the moment, but those guys, sharing their photos and stuff, that makes my feed a better place. So just keep it up, please.
I want to say, there's also the Vaultist, I believe, has done some Fallout related machinima, but I believe that the people behind the 5.0 have also been working on Fallout related, or not Fallout, Starfield related machinima. Correct me if I'm wrong, Lucy, Ray, if you listen to this. But there's definitely plenty of other great content out there, and we've mentioned this on the Fallout Tapes from the Waste, that it's not competition; it's just more to enjoy.
Oh God, no!
There's so many other great people out there to follow for more content. And I think we probably would be a bit more regular if we didn't have a lot of other stuff that we're involved in.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, there is a big part of me that would love to be just like all in on one thing and all in on Starfield, but that's not me, man. Like, I like all the other stuff, and this is why I started my new show, because I get to talk about games and that are not Starfield and not Fallout and not Gears of War. So just keep it up, guys. Like, and it goes to show, like, and kind of ties into some of the stats I'm going to talk about in a minute. People are playing the game, and people are enjoying the game, and they're loving the game. This is not the bomb that some people like to make it out to be. And
no.
Early stages of the journey and all that stuff that I said. That's what we're in right now, and it's content creators like that are, and players in the community that are a big part of keeping it alive. Because I've had in the past sort of 6 months or so where we've seen all this hatred towards games more than ever. I think I find myself sympathizing with the devs, because you see the shit that's going down in the games industry with the layoffs and studio closures, and it's like, these people, many of these, okay, to some of the people working there, sure, maybe it's just a job, but to a lot of the people working on these games, it's more than a job. They're creating art and they're putting their heart and souls into it, and to have people just talk shit.
Oh my god.
To have your dog just talk shit on Starfield.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell she was barking at. She was completely passed out under a blanket and then decided to go nuts.
Having a bad dream. No, she heard me talk about the fall of the gaming industry, and she was like, yeah, no, it's horrible. So, yeah, what I was going to say was, I more than ever, like many other people, I think about the devs and the studios and the people actually pouring their heart and soul into this work, and then to just have the toxicity that we have online. And I'm not just talking about Starfield, I'm talking about other game, any game really, console warriors and stuff like that. It's just people are working on these games. If you don't like it and it's not for you, just move on with your life, because people like us
or get a life.
Yeah. People like us and others out there are playing Starfield and loving Starfield and putting Starfield content out. And I believe in the long run, we're going to be rewarded for that, with more great content from the game, more updates. And yeah, so just a huge shout out to the community for keeping the spark alive, because I'm sure the devs that are on social media see that and smile. Some of them may not interact with us as much as we'd like them to. That's fine, but I know that they will appreciate
They're busy.
it. Yeah, they're very busy. Yeah. Busy cranking out Shattered Space that we want now. So it's just important, I think, to underline the dedication that people have to Starfield. And, this is our little corner, our little podcast where we just like to have fun and talk about the game. And I'm very proud to be a small part of the Starfield community, and long may it continue.
And we are very realistic as opposed to what the game is.
Yeah.
But that goes multiple ways. Like, we don't just see the negative, we don't just see the positive, we see it for what it is.
Yeah.
And whether or not that lines up with what the community would have you, or the wider internet would have you believe.
I would just rather spend my time amplifying the positives. And look, I'm human. Don't get me wrong. I love to moan. Who doesn't love to have a moan and complain now and again? We all do. But you need to check yourself, and you need to think, should I really be spending so much energy on these complaints, and so, which is why I like to do shows like this, where I talked earlier in the episode about all the stuff I love, all the profound experiences I've had in Starfield, because they are what matter. And any little complaints I have about the game don't really matter, because clearly they can't be that important, because I've got hundreds of hours in this game, or nearly hundreds of hours, or whatever. So something's working. And so
it's like, take your time, experience it for yourself, formulate your own opinion before you start spewing bullshit online.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. Well said. Before we do final thoughts and outro, can I just touch on some of my stats that I thought would be...
Sure.
Yeah. So obviously we are 6 months out from the game. The last milestone we had for Starfield was that 13 million people had played the game, and it's probably been a few more since then, because I think this was in December. This was the last time Xbox had talked about this. Now, obviously, that's across Xbox and PC. 13 million is a lot of players for,
amazing,
effectively a console exclusive as well, which is what I say platform exclusive, PC and Xbox. And look, we've been through this whole episode. We didn't even touch on the PS5 rumors, but let's save that for another time. So 13 million players, which is good to see. Obviously, there'll be fewer people playing it. If you look at the Steam charts, which people like to, point to as like, oh, look how terrible this game's doing. It's got fewer players than this game and stuff like that. And it's like, look, I think as a measurement, like, you can't necessarily be comparing Starfield to Skyrim, because Skyrim has what 12 years in its bank, right? 12 years of time to game, and 12 years and like 7 editions and versions of the game and stuff like that. So it's had a long time to build up its hardcore player base,
even in a Amazon Alexa version.
Yeah. Exactly. So, just taking, where do I have it? I did take a quick look at the Steam charts just to see where Starfield currently ranks as of yesterday, and unsurprisingly, Skyrim is still the most played Bethesda game on Steam, close with a peak players yesterday of 22,000. Fallout 4 is closely behind with 16,000 players in the last 24 hours. Excuse me. And then after that, it is Starfield. So then it goes Starfield, Fallout 3, no, Starfield, Fallout 76, Fallout 3, and Oblivion. So Starfield is currently being beaten by Fallout 4 and Skyrim on Steam. Now,
Fallout 4 is about to ramp up.
Exactly.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's going to ramp up.
My friend Charo has been working on Fallout London, and that's about a month out. So.
And just, again, linking that back to the community side of things and how the Fallout community are a huge part in the sort of healthiness of the health of the game and stuff like that. But, people say, oh, more people are playing. Look, nobody wants to play Starfield. More people are playing Fallout 4 and Skyrim. It's like, well, yeah, they've got legacy. Those games have got legacy, and I'm not even going to say that I think one is better than the other, but I don't enjoy when people use these numbers as a reason to say the game is a flop, because it's not a flop. And these Steam charts don't include console players. We know that the game was a big hit on Xbox and probably being played by most people on Xbox and not Steam. If you go to Xbox now, Starfield is still in the top 30 most played games on Xbox. Now, they don't give you numbers and player count, but it's there in the charts. But the important caveat of that is Starfield is only one of 3 single players games in the top 30. The rest are all multiplayer games or live service games. So that's pretty impressive for a game that's 6 months out to still be sitting there high in the charts, sitting alongside the Fortnites and the Call of Duties and the FIFAs. People are playing Starfield, whether some folks out there want to admit it or not. And so that's kind of where we sit 6 months out. Like I say, numbers are not massively surprising for me. I think the scores and review scores at the time, as we know, were divisive and across the board. And I think back to before the game launched, I'm on record as saying I know the reviews are going to be mixed when it comes out. And they are, because Bethesda games are weird and they have long journeys in them and long stories to tell. I definitely am aligned with the higher ratings of the game. And as I've mentioned many times on the show today...
it is, it's great.
Yeah, I've mentioned many times on the show today that I think people are overlooking the good that it has. They're putting a microscope on the negatives and blinding themselves to the good that is on offer and the promise of the game, and what's to come. So yeah.
That basically ties into our final thoughts too. So just kind of like, it's again, just experience it for yourself, because there is so much to love about this game. And like you said, it's a brand new IP. So, who's to say, like, I mean, and this has been a learning experience with Bethesda because they've never done a game like this before. I mean, there's the roots that you see in other games, like, you'll see things that they've taken from Elder Scrolls and Fallout and kind of baked it into this, but, it's just going to get better. I mean, they're going to take what they've learned from this, and they'll definitely be incorporating it into Shattered Space and whatever Starfield 2 is in the next 15, 20 years, whenever we get that. But it's just, I mean, that's kind of the story of this game, is potential and what they plan to do with it. So, I mean, God, if you're old enough to remember the first days of 3D, these days, looking back on that was a learning experience in itself. Like, they'd never done 3D before the way it was done at that point, and the next generation just improved. And I think that's kind of what we're going to see with Starfield is, it was the first voyage into a game like this for Bethesda, and it's just going to get better from here. I mean, and there's already a lot to love with it. So
Yeah, you've kind of hit the nail on the head there when you said potential. It is the story of this game, and I don't want that to sound like we're undermining the good stuff that is here now.
No, and I was trying to not make that what I was saying, but
you're right. And as I've kind of cheesily said, the whole theme of Starfield is about the journey, and it's the journey of playing the game, the journey of the production. This. To repeat myself, I think time is going to be kind to Starfield, and for a game that, like we said, new IP, bold new direction, bold new choices, a game that for large portions of time was being developed during a global fucking pandemic. I mean, let's not be too harsh on some missing features, because I think what was delivered at launch and where we sit now is a fantastic experience, and a fantastic experience which has its hooks in me, makes me want more. I'm so excited to see where it goes. I don't have too much else to say, just really looking forward to future updates. And like I said, supplementary content. Like, I do hope, obviously I want to see more from the game, but I hope if anybody from Bethesda is listening to this, I really hope you guys are working on other stuff. I hope you're working on some animation. I hope you're working on a graphic novel, or, a book, a novel. Because this world you've built, it's got something. And it would be a shame if this was a one and done from Bethesda. And I don't think it is. I think they've put too much love into it, and they're gonna milk it for a while. And
this has been 25 years in the making as it is. They're not gonna just.
I don't want this to become just a point in a vacuum of space of Starfield for Bethesda. I want it to be ongoing. I want to see more. We don't necessarily need a Starfield 2. We can add, these big updates for the next few years, and you're effectively getting sequel-sized campaigns with things like Phantom Liberty and stuff like that that other games are doing. So there's no reason we can't get more and more. And I really we'll
eventually get a way to play with friends too.
Yeah,
because I know that's another thing that people have really been wanting.
It is
games like 76 and ESO.
I think that would be great, and obviously fundamentally it might be difficult to incorporate into this game because of the way it is, but either way,
this one.
Some kind of Starfield multiplayer, once the mods come to console, that'll be a whole new experience. And I just am wishing them all the best and continued success for the game. We're not going anywhere. We've got much more to talk about on this show, loads more lore to come and all that stuff. I still love Starfield. Can't wait to see what comes in the future.
Absolutely. So, well, I think that about does it for this episode. I don't know if you want to share all your other projects that you've been working on.
So, yes, everybody get a pen and paper, because you're going to need to write it all down.
There's a big list.
I do.
For both of us, actually.
As we've mentioned, we both do lots of other shows. My newest show is the Gaming Aroma podcast. I'm also part of, which is a broad, just Sunday morning gaming chat show. Part of First Aid Spray, which is a Resident Evil channel. Gears Intel, which is a Gears of War channel. Obviously, Tapes from the Waste, which Eric and I host together. What else? Two Carrots. Me and Lou haven't done a Two Carrots episode for a while. He's had some stuff going on, which is fine, but that's not dead. I'm sure we'll be back with some new episodes there. And just come and follow me on Twitter, which I am still on for now, K_D_B_, where I share links out to everything and everything I do. So come and talk Starfield with me. Come and talk gaming with me. Would love to hear from you.
Absolutely. I don't think... Have you done a Two Carrots episode this year yet?
Not this year, no. The last one we did was just before Christmas. We'll be back. We'll be back soon enough.
It's always fun hearing the two of you go back and forth, especially with the three questions segment.
We will be back, I promise.
Awesome. So, all right, and as far as me, I've got I've kind of lost count at this point. There's Tamarisk Adventures and Super Nintendo. I need to put episodes out for those. I actually have an idea that I need to explore with those. Then, of course, Tapes from the Wastes, and every now and then you'll hear me hear my feedback with Fallout 3, going through that with the Fallout feed. And now apparently I'm going to be a somewhat occasional panel member on the Fallout Roundtable with my good friend Don McCormick. So, and the rest of them. Also, I voice a couple of characters on the Modus Files. So it's a great Fallout audio drama that myself and several of my friends are a part of. So yeah, definitely check out all those, and you can find my personal page on Twitter and Blue Sky at IanGold08. I'm still on Instagram too, but I don't post on there nearly as frequently. So, yep, that about does it for this episode. So I'm sure we'll be back with another lore episode soon. Kind of wanted to talk about the Colony War. So until then, stay safe out there, Spacelanders.